All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's a great pleasure to have you today during this very special webinar. It's special because we're starting a series on not focused on us as ClicData, but focused on some of our customers and advanced users. Now, the title of this webinar could be scary, like it sounds like we're gonna work more, but it's actually a really good story. To introducing my special guest, Jeremy. The floor is yours. Who are you?
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, my name's Jeremy Belk, and I run analytics and BI and a bunch of other things at Crane Payment Innovations. And Crane Payment Innovations is a global electronics manufacturer. If you put money into a kiosk or a casino machine or anything that puts a dollar bill or other form of payment, physical payment, it's likely that our scanner is what's scanning your money at that vending machine or whatever it is. So I
Excellent.
was very thankful for ClicData to invite me on this, and look forward to a great discussion.
And I believe before going to the dark side of the IT team, you were in
Sure.
marketing, right?
Yeah, I was global marketing ops for CPI for a long time. There was a little bit of a restructure, reorg, and they put me on the IT side because of the nature of my role. I admin our website and our entire Marcom tech stack, and there was just a good fit to move over to that side of things and really help advance that team, advance the CRM side, which the BI tool interacts a lot with as well. So
Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, and talking about the dark side, I work in sales. I'm the CRO here at ClicData. This is a good time to move on to our agenda, and then we'll get a little deeper into our organizations. We're gonna have a quick intro of who we are and now what we do. And now that you know who we are, we're gonna dig deeper into our roles and who our companies are all about. And then we'll go into the use case, specifically very focused on marketing, which is very dear to our heart at this time of the year because that's a hot budget time. We need to prove impact, which is something we have to do constantly, I guess, but even more so this time of the year when we need to show that marketing needs to get more budget on this line or that line or which channel to push and accelerate. So we'll look at that and we'll have a discussion, and then we'll look at the deployment side of things, the efforts, what it takes to have those KPIs in place. And I'll be doing a lot less of the talking. Jeremy is gonna walk you guys through all of that good stuff. And then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A with all your great comments and questions on the chat. And I'll keep a little bonus for the end. So with that said, Jeremy, you were talking a little bit about CPI when you introduced yourself. Maybe you can expand a little bit in terms of the size of the company. We got a bit of a glimpse of what you guys focus on in terms of product. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit before we get into the use case.
sure, just for reference for where I'm coming from and kind of my experience, and when I'm talking about some of these marketing pieces, it's helpful to know, who CPI is. A lot of people don't know CPI unless they've literally been at a retail store or something like that and happened to see the little cash scanner in the, seen the little logo on there, but it's generally not a well-known. It's not like Apple where, okay, everyone knows who Apple is. But they're a global leader in automated and connected payment solutions. So pretty much anything that you pay with at a kiosk or the back of house cash counters, we are part of our company is the Cummins Allison brand, right? So the things you see in the movies that, like cash and sorting and counting, that's kind of what we are. Our space is we create those, we manufacture them, we distribute them all over the world. It's pretty regulated space in most countries, as you would imagine, right? So we have to have access to the actual physical money even before it comes out to program the scanners that are scanning it. So it's a little bit of a unique industry in that there's not very many players, but at the same time, there's still a lot of competition from not necessarily up and comers, but just new technologies that come out. If there's a new kiosk that shows up, There's a lot of integrated software behind the scenes that you wouldn't think of, but a lot of people, for instance, on the casino floor want all their machines to connect and know what's going on, that side of things. So there's a bit of software and software sales even on that side as well, you wouldn't think of. CPI, I think, just clipped $1 billion in sales last year, something like that. Publicly traded company, part of the Crane and NXT family. Recent addition there. Crane NXT is a holding company for 2 or 3 similar companies that we all work together, including our sister company, Crane Currency, which makes all the paper that all the money is built, it's printed on in the world. A little bit of a racket, I want to say, but it's kind of fun. Yeah, we're over in over 70 countries. I think close to 3,000 employees, and not including contractors, but globally and in all the major countries you would think of. And we primarily serve retail, gaming, transportation, financial services, and various things. Anywhere you put your money in the actual machine to get scanned, that there's a vertical typically for it at that point of sale or wherever it is. And then we connect the data side on the backside for the companies, understanding what's been processed, what's been bought where. It's really that kind of interaction point. I think of it as like a river, right? You have the end of the river and the beginning of the river, and you're trying to get your logs down the river. We're the part in between that connects from where the person's paying all the way to where the company's receiving the payment. So
Hidden, but absolutely critical.
yeah, it's one of those invisible dark side
Yeah.
things, right?
Excellent. Good stuff. I can imagine the amount of data points that you have to deal with. um, I'm the CRO of ClicData, as I mentioned earlier. By now, the ones following our webinar series know what we do and who we are. But for the newcomers, we're a data management and data analytics platform. Our strength is connectivity, and then we'll look at it in the story in a few minutes. We basically can pull data from everything and anything, which as a salesperson is an extremely comfortable place to be. Anytime I'm asked, can you pull data from this or that database or this API? My answer can always be yes, with the certainty that we'll be able to do it from a technical standpoint. So we're active. Our users are active in over 25 countries worldwide, so that keeps us with a nice mix of different countries and culture. It's pretty cool. And basically, our mission is to make data analytics and data driven decisions accessible. And I think we'll see some of that mission statement in action once we go into the details of Jeremy's story. So with that said, I'm gonna pull the slides out so we focus on the conversation. And I'd like to start, Jeremy, with a bit of an introduction of what were you trying to do when you started looking for a solution like ours. So staying away from the effort and the technology itself and everything that goes with the technology decision is what was the whole project about?
I think the place to start is generally with what's the problem, right? If you can't define the problem really clearly, you don't know where you're going to go. And especially when I started at CPI a few years back, the problem really was, okay, we have marketing data everywhere, multiple platforms. The tables and the data itself are not necessarily connected in any way, shape, or form. They're not in some sense. You would think for the large, multi-billion-dollar company that's been around for years, that they would just have all their data in a nice little, little spot, and Yellow Brick or all those kind of platforms are working together great, and you can just go into the data management system and pick out what you want. No, that wasn't the case when I showed up. It was in many different spots. Google Analytics had their own side of things. We had our website. All the different platforms had it in their own respective place, but it wasn't together. And we were sitting here as a marketing team going, okay, what are we going to do? I mean, that was the problem. Like, we need to access this information and be able to share it up to leadership, be able to share it out to the organization so we can make smart, intelligent decisions. And so I think that's really where we started and what came into play, as far as, okay, we need to find a platform that we can do this easily, without a large lift, we'll say internally, from finding a large BI platform to like put it all together, and it's going to take 6 months to, I'm touching on a lot of things for you guys, but essentially we looked at a few different options. It's like, oh, this is going to take forever to integrate, and we're going to have to sit here and go through all these steps with IT. So I think the problem was, how do we get that done quickly, right, and effectively, so that we can easily share out the information out to the org, and still while maintaining security as well, right? I mean, we can't just go down there, throw down the P card, and let's go tomorrow, right? We can't do next day, right? But we didn't want it to take 6+ months to get everything into a centralized system, and then get that cleaned and ready for some larger system to work. So that was kind of where we were at, if that makes sense.
Okay. Can you detail a little bit that need for centralization? I mean, is it about crossing those different types of data to get to certain KPIs? Is it about having just one view of everything that's going on, but you're still looking at it per channel? Like,
Sure.
what was the behind that need to centralize everything?
Yeah, I think it ends up with the other end of the problem, which is the solution. You typically need 2, 3 main KPIs from a higher level that you can share with leadership, and then probably 5 to 10 mid row kind of ones that you can kind of share internally, like for our marketing team to know whether we need to pull certain levers or not. And what was going on with the data was that those weren't all connected across the several main platforms, and there wasn't a solution that was easily just plug it in, and okay, I can connect my Google data to my CRM, which in our case is Salesforce, right? Also plugged into the CMS side of things, so Drupal. Like they're large platforms that have a lot of integrator connectors, but they don't all talk to each other, and it's pretty obvious when you start opening up and asking, hey, can I connect this to Salesforce? Can I connect this to Drupal? Then they're going like, yep, here we go. Let's pay, pay the several $1,000s to connect that one thing over, right? And so, all you really want is, okay, I want to count the leads, and I want to count how many conversions are happening and the percentage of that increasing over time, so that I can say this is what we're doing and justify marketing spend, etc. Right. And you can't do that when you can't even line them up on a simple Excel table, right? You'd have to download it from all these sources, mush them all together in Excel if you wanted to do it manually. And then that's just not worth the time to do that every single time. So it was about having those data sources all in one spot, and then being able to visualize it to not only internally to our team, but also to the org as well, like in general, the larger org, if
Okay.
that makes
Sure.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep mentioning speed. Is I understand that part of that is comes with the automation that you were describing.
Sure.
Um, I can't imagine that you were not with any technology on your hand in an organization that like CPI when you looked at into centralizing the marketing data. So you mentioned briefly earlier that one of the key learnings of this whole experience was how quickly you were able to deploy the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, can you detail that a little bit? Like quickly means what? Days, weeks, months? I understand it's not years, but what are we
Sure.
talking about?
Sure. I think it's a months versus weeks scenario in this
Yeah.
case. I come back to this thought that I have, that this example that I don't think anyone's ever going to match it, is when Elon integrated all his AI in like a week or two or something like that. Like he set it all up in a week, and the NVIDIA CEO was like, I'd never seen that happen before. Usually this takes 2 years, right? So, and they had done it that quickly, and that was kind of the differentiating factor for us as well, where we're looking at this going, okay, well, we can pick one of these other options. It might be a little bit better as far as, features, or, this or that, but it's going to take 6 to 12 months, because we're going to have to put it through our internal IT team. There's going to be security checks that probably aren't as necessary. Security is important, but not to the extent of it taking 6 to 12 months, right? And then you have the development time for the on the IT application side of our IT team, where they're doing other things too. They're developing other softwares, other platforms, and they can't just stop what they're doing and go straight for 2 weeks and fix all the plugging in everything that happens. And so when we were taking a look at this, it took us probably, I'd say, 1 to 2 weeks to set up, to as far as like we've got the contract signed and we have it all set up. and then maybe another week to build out dashboards and the more like operational things for the users, which was pretty impressive, right? To be able to go from zero to hero in 3 weeks, right? As far as like what actually happened when we first set it up. I've done a bunch of integrations, a bunch of setups in my career, from large platforms to smaller ones, and this beat even the smaller ones out. So that was definitely something refreshing, where I don't have to sit here and manage a project for 2, 3, 4 months, 6 months of just to get a. I know this sounds silly, but like a dashboard that shows 10 metrics to the leadership, right? That shouldn't take 6 months, right? And then you think that, like, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is there's 6 months or almost an entire year's worth of cycle at that point
Yeah.
of decision making that has to be pushed off, and or is not as intelligent, as before, right? Before, it's kind of like we're pulling random reports and kind of making the best guess and then making a slide deck and showing that, and this is our justification. Now we have a dashboard, very clear. What are the metrics going? They push up to the leadership. They push internally to the users as well, and it's fairly quickly. One sprint cycle as opposed to half a year is a big difference.
It is a big difference. So it is weeks versus months,
Yeah.
indeed.
I
Good,
mean,
good.
and it sounds funny, and I'm just going to add this. This is kind of a notch in your guys' cap, and I'm not just joining this for people listening to like, oh, he's just sitting here like espousing there are things that hold you up, but it was usually the other side. Like when we wanted to plug things into ClicData, it was like, oh, we'd make the request. ClicData says we're ready, we're good to go, and then the other company was just kind of sitting there going through their ticketing process. Okay, we're sitting there a week late. Hey guys, are you gonna? Oh, okay. Here's the API info. Right. It would just. We weren't waiting on a ClicData to do it. Right. It was like if we weren't waiting on those, it'd probably be closer to 2 weeks instead of 3. Right. Which is even more impressive. Right. So.
What? How would you describe the reasons for that speed? Like based on what you're saying, I understand you leveraged the connectors quite a bit because there was nothing to develop. They were there. They were ready to be plugged in as long as you have the API key, as you
Sure.
mentioned.
Yeah.
Was there any other feature aspects that you feel contributed to the speed of pushing those KPIs to management?
I think probably there were two main factors that increased the speed to the end result, which was the dashboards we could send to management, and I think part of it was the setup for the connectors internally. With ClicData is there's this essentially like palette of ones you can pick from, and then there's this last one that's like connect to anything, right? And we'll figure it out for you. But I think that attitude was the same through all of them. So even if we had an issue with a standard one, like with Excel or some random Excel upload one, we go ask for help, and within a day they're up there. You have someone live working with your specific instance with you on the phone or on email chat, right? And working through it, and then even I want to say even when we like I forgot to like close it out, they'd follow up on the ticket. Are you done? Are you done? Yep, I'm done. Thanks. So there was this level of white glove service that I didn't expect for the level of platform that we were getting for our organization. Typically when you get platforms and there's different tiers of cost. You got the Salesforce that costs $500,000. You're expecting that, right, when you call them, right, because you're spending so much. And when you're not spending as much, when it's we'll say sub 100 for like how much you're spending, you're not expecting this level of customer service and integration help. You're thinking, oh, I might send a ticket and I'll get an answer in a week. So that didn't happen. And I think the other piece is the kind of the technical code prowess side of things, that when we had a problem with a harder integration, or like click it, plug it in, it's supposed to work. Google's probably the best example, because Google's always changing their rules. I don't know how
Mhm.
you guys stay on top of it, but they change their rules even from a marketing perspective when you're trying to set up an ad campaign, or you're trying to set up SEO or AdWords or something like that, and you set it and then you come back to do another campaign and they've changed all the configurations and rules again. So but they're doing that same thing for you guys, the kind of the vendors of them, right, at
Certainly
the same
keeps our
time.
product team busy. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, oh, he said the G word, but so we would have an issue with Google, like some tables not matching it because they've moved it around for whatever metric that they push out. And so I think the ability for the product team and the support team to come in and quickly assess, especially on Google, those are the ones I had the most, like interaction with ClicData, where it was like, okay, Google decided to make all these metrics under this other column data piece over here, and now I can't see my main metric anymore, right, on the dashboard. It broke it all the way through, and Google didn't know that, but so then they go in there with the code and they figure it out with you, like right there, and in very, very documented, very helpful way. And I think those two areas really contributed to the speed of getting things up and running and keeping it running as well, right?
So it's not just the product; it's also the supporting effort, the support and services team. What I'm hearing as well is that we should increase our prices. 'Cause
Well, you wouldn't have gotten picked if you. No, kidding. I alwauld say that's fair. I mean, I think depending for the level of service, for sure. And
Yeah.
I'd say everything that you guys have offered, the pricing was fair. But yeah, over time, I would imagine that as you guys grow and get bigger, that for sure you should increase your prices. I'm not saying that you should do that, but at the same time, if you cost the same as Salesforce or something like that, then you probably wouldn't have gotten picked, right? So
Absolutely.
that was
Um,
your advantage.
y- you're talking about customer satisfaction.
Mhm.
Tell me about your internal customers. Like you were talking about speed of deployment, which is more of the I have a project, I have a problem, I want to solve it, and I find a solution for it quickly and it works quickly. Tell me about speed in terms of you meeting the demands of your internal teams and internal customers, because I understand that in your case, those dashboards and those KPIs are meant for internal audience. You mentioned
Yeah.
management, but maybe there are other customers. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece and how you were able to solve their problems faster potentially?
Yeah, I think we all understand as we go through life and through work that there are customers of all shapes and sizes, right? My company has customers that buy our product, right? But my primary customer in this case is not only leadership, so my bosses and their bosses, but also the teams that are using the tool, the users themselves that are going in there and needing to either create a dashboard or configure it or set it up in a way that makes sense for their internal teams to have information, right? I think those are kind of the two groups, two buckets, if you were,
Yeah.
of people that are essentially my customers. And I think the best way to think about it from a speed and satisfaction standpoint is that they're only concerned about one thing: is I need to get the number to leadership, or I need to get the number to my team, so that they can look at it and make a decision on how they're going to run their marketing campaign, or how they're going to allocate money and funds budgeting wise, right, on the
Yep.
leadership side. After that, they don't care how many hoops I have to jump through, or or setting it up, or what ClicData has to do. They're like, that's great. We don't care about that. And it's not to be insensitive about it. It's just that's what they care about. They care about having that number, it being accurate, and it being presentable to either their team or to leadership. And I think the speed at which they can, we'll say they being the actual internal marketing users, and the kind of the team itself, be able to either create dashboards and deploy them. There's this really cool feature that I hadn't seen in many places, where it's essentially a throwaway link. I don't know what you guys call it, but you can share the link internally without having to worry about someone having a login. They don't have to go into ClicData and have an account set up. A lot
The
of
live
tools.
link. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of tools in the live link. Sorry, I didn't forgot what it was called. I just send them out, right? But
I'm
a lot
trying
of
to follow.
tools
Yeah.
require you to have a login, right? And that's usually
Yeah.
associated with extra fees, extra. Okay, you have to pay for 100 users or whatever to be able to see anything internal. And the live link would just essentially give the user who has the live link ability to just, okay, let's see the dashboard. Like, they can't do much other maybe clicking some of the widgets,
Yeah.
but they can see it and they can interact it. And so pretty easily I can take what would be, especially if you think about a global organization, we have like, 4,000 users or more potentially. I'm not going to be able to spend for 4,000 user licenses. That's not going to happen, right? And so I'm going to enable the marketing team and elements of the sales and leadership team to have their logins if they need to configure and create dashboards, that kind of thing. But then the rest of it, it's share that link internally on email. It's secure. We don't have to worry about it going out into the world or whatever. And maybe in some instances we would share with vendor partners on a kind of a closed call, but generally speaking, we don't have to worry about the security on that side, as long as someone doesn't forward the link to somewhere. But generally it's for like a meeting or a call. So that ability to do that and you create a couple templates for them to use. Not everyone's a UI designer, so you don't really want some random marketing or sales user like, I'm going to make my dashboard, and they've never made a dashboard before, right? So you kind of help them out with that. So having those templates to be able to push out and have easy access to make what they need, very, very helpful. Definitely made it super fast for a novice. If you can use Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, you can use these tools pretty easily and push out a dashboard to your team of the metrics that you care about and kind of have it pre-set up and pre-fed for them to do. And then I'd say on the other side, the leadership side, right? They want to be able to consume that quickly, easily. So the live link definitely helped with that, where they can just click at it, look at it, not have to figure out how to log themselves in and this and that, just all the different, because they have a million passwords and everything. They don't want to deal with that. But at the same time, it's still professional, secure, and you get the information that you need. And if there is some issue, it's not this big development project to go down the pipe to, oh, let's fix all this stuff. It's just, okay, well, that widget wasn't working and we didn't see the number on it, and they send a message and next day it's working, right? Live on the same link. We don't have to go republish it and redo everything. A lot of times dashboarding, and I'm not going to knock on Salesforce. They're a huge software, but a lot of times when we make dashboards, for instance, in Salesforce, it's a big project just to change a little thing and a lot of development time. And you kind of have to plan ahead and make sure that you don't have issues ahead of time. And with ClicData, it was very nimble, right? You have the ability to, change it on the fly with it still being authoritative, right? Without worrying about the integrity of the data. Because for those of you that haven't used ClicData or maybe taken a look at it, the data and everything coming in is very separate from the dashboard. It's not, you don't have to worry about like breaking or at least from my perspective. I mean, maybe you can speak to this, but there's not like anything. The data is not getting changed. It's just coming in, right? You can manipulate it and transform it and all that kind of thing, but you don't have to worry about an end user or even a power user administrator like myself breaking the data, because it's not going to break the data. And that's good to know, because some of the tools out there, they actually transform the actual data, and that's kind of scary sometimes, right?
Yeah. That was a decision very early on not to interfere with the actual source of the data, but to do all the data work directly in ClicData. So you have that extra layer. Um, we even now allowed to do changes directly on ClicData and not necessarily push them live right away, so that you can have multiple version of data treatment basically. So
Well, I mean, it's humans, right? We always tend to break
yep.
things. I mean, so like, so that was a very good foresight in that sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you raise a good point. I mean, we keep talking about speed of deployment when at the project launch time, but truth is there is nothing set in stone either in the type of data you want to bring it, and
Right.
nor in the type of indicators that you want to produce. Uh, you want to be able to keep it all agile and evolving as the crazy marketers want to measure new things and
Crazy
new software
marketers.
comes out.
Well, and the
So
traceability is super important too. I didn't
yeah,
really mention that, right? So sometimes you're in tools and like you can't figure out where what came from. So I'll see an Excel dump one time and it'll come on across my desk. I'm like, oh, I know that's from SAP. That's what they look like, right? When I open it up, like that definitely came from SAP, right? But that's about it. Like if I go into SAP, I cannot figure out where their tables, unless I'm the admin, table administrator, architect. I cannot figure out how they got it where, how it was transformed, did it go into a data warehouse or not? Like I can't. I think that's very helpful when we're going through the setup process, and even now as data continues to change, right? Like there's new inputs. You're always trying to clean bits of it. You're always trying to make new marketing, you know, metrics that you want to
yeah,
push out and say this is the next
absolutely.
greatest best thing, but you need to know where it comes from. And I think with ClicData I can find that fairly easily. There's actually this really cool, like, has visual mapping version of it when you're trying to figure out, okay, we transformed it 3 times so that it would mesh with this version of this data from this source, but like how did I do that, right? And I'm like, I don't remember how I did that. I did like 2 months ago and to get it to work, and now I'm looking at it like, where did it come from? And there's a visual map where you just kind of click and it kind of
You can
kind of a
retrace those stats.
spaghetti,
Yeah,
tree map, and you can kind of figure out what, oh, it was there. Okay, that's the base table, that's the base input, the base integration. Okay, that's where it's coming from. But then when I get outside of that, outside of ClicData, then it's frustrating again. But I can't do anything about that. So
Good stuff. Well, excellent. I think this was a nice set of steps to that conversation, understanding what you've been trying to do when you started this, and then the effort, how it's helped you improve your customer service quality internally as well,
Yeah.
saving you time at the same time. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for being with us today. Just I promised a little bonus for the end. We've just launched what we call the BI Boost offer, which is basically a bit of a promise that you can actually implement um, the BI that you need in a couple of weeks. So that's why we call it the BI Boost in 14 days. So obviously the story that we shared today is reassuring in that promise that it's not just our marketing going weird. No, this is there is a truth to that speed of deployment, and it's even more critical at this time of the year, as I was mentioning earlier, because we're in budget season and we need to prove impact and we need to bring data to the table when we're trying to convince our bosses and our management to go stronger on certain channels. So if you want to have the proper data to make that point and also start the new year all set from the start of the year, don't hesitate to reach out and share Jeremy's story as well, because that's a good data driven story.
Yeah.
Thank you
I w-
so
and
much, Jeremy.
I would add that the two weeks is real, right? Like, and we joined several years ago, and there's been tons of improvements since. But yeah, 2 weeks is real. I mean, we got going in 2 weeks, and upstream and downstream could use the tool pretty quickly, right? And like without much training, it's pretty easy. You go through a couple videos and you're good to go. So it's 2 weeks is definitely I would say right on par. So
It's solid. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.